A grizzled veteran trucker believes it's just another long haul, until the silent technician, riding shotgun, peels back a disguise and turns the open road into a battleground for justice. Will one highway rebellion topple a broken empire? The sun hadn't yet broken the horizon when Logan Hayes rolled out of the freight yard, his rig groaning under the weight of its latest haul, industrial cooling systems bound for a distribution hub in Missouri. The early light cast long shadows across the lot, but Logan's face remained untouched by it, stone-set, unreadable, with eyes that scanned the road ahead like a hawk watching for ambushes. At 61, Logan had the kind of presence that made men twice his size lower their voices. His hands, calloused and scarred, gripped the steering wheel like it owed him something. The military tattoo on his forearm had faded, but his posture hadn't, rigid, precise, every move deliberate. For Logan, the road wasn't a place of freedom. It was duty, order, a stretch of asphalt he controlled in a world that otherwise made no sense. He didn't like passengers. He never took them. But that day, sitting beside him in the cab was a man named Mark Doyle. Corporate had assigned him last minute some new initiative about improving logistics through on-the-ground observation. Logan had tried to refuse. He'd cursed out his route manager and slammed his fist on the counter. But the choice was clear: take the observer or lose the route. And Logan couldn't afford to lose any routes, not with the hospital bills coming in like a second mortgage. Mark didn't say much. He was in his early 40s, maybe younger, with neatly trimmed brown hair and a quiet energy that grated on Logan's nerves. His clothes were clean but generic: dark jeans, flannel shirt, heavy work boots. He didn't wear cologne, which Logan appreciated. But the clipboard, the constant note-taking, that was another matter. "Don't touch anything," Logan muttered when they crossed into the highway. "Don't ask questions. You stay in that seat, and we'll get along." Mark nodded. Understood. For the first 100 miles, the cab was silent except for the rumble of the engine and the occasional CB chatter crackling through the radio. Logan didn't trust people who were too quiet. In his experience, the loud ones hit hard, but at least you saw them coming. The quiet ones waited until your back was turned. By the time they hit their first checkpoint in Ohio, Mark had already made 3 pages of notes: logistics issues, loading discrepancies, GPS rerouting errors. He never asked Logan for input, but he watched everything: how Logan handled breakdown protocols, how the manifest didn't match the cargo, how the loading team at the last yard had used the wrong rigging. Logan noticed, of course, but he didn't say a damn thing. It wasn't his job to fix the system, only to survive it. At a truck stop just outside Dayton, Logan stepped out for fuel and a burnt coffee that tasted like melted tires. Mark lingered by the trailer, inspecting the undercarriage. He knelt beside a brake line and frowned. "That's not standard," he muttered, mostly to himself. "You got something to say about my rig?" Logan snapped. Mark straightened slowly. "It's not your rig's fault. This is a fleet-wide cost-cutting retrofit. Not DOT compliant, though. You didn't notice the wear. I notice everything. I just don't have the luxury of making it my problem." Mark nodded once, eyes lowering back to the clipboard. Logan turned away, jaw tight. Back in the cab, a voice crackled over the CB. Midwest corridors heating up. Rumors of a full-scale protest in Kansas. Drivers pulling over, blocking lanes. "We're done being underpaid and overworked." Logan grunted. "Idiots. Gonna get themselves shot or sued." Mark glanced over. "You don't support the protest?" "Doesn't matter what I support. I got deadlines, not opinions." He didn't mention the letter he'd gotten that morning from St. Jude's in Chicago. The surgery date that moved up. The cost estimate attached. He didn't have time for rebellion. Not when his grandson's heart was racing against a clock no one could see. As night fell and the miles stretched ahead, Mark finally broke the silence. "You were military?" Logan's grip tightened. "Don't ask me about that." "Understood." The cab fell silent again, but something in the air had shifted. Mark kept writing. Logan kept driving. And up ahead, the map was about to go off script. Somewhere in the distance, engines were idling, protest signs being painted in the backs of trailers, and men like Logan, that never broke, We're about to find out what it meant to be forced off autopilot. The dawn was red, not the soft, warming kind, but a harsh, coppery hue that bled across the sky like a warning flare. Logan Hayes didn't need signs to know something was off. He could feel it. The kind of pressure that tightens your shoulders before you even know why. 20 miles outside Kansas City, the convoy came into view. Hundreds of trucks were parked diagonally across all lanes of the interstate, turning the highway into a metal wall of defiance. Engines idled like beasts waiting to pounce. Some rigs had handmade banners tied to the grills. Safe rigs, fair pay, or no wheels roll. Others bore American flags hanging limp in the still air. Drivers stood in clusters, some shouting into megaphones, some sitting silently on coolers, sipping coffee as if the world hadn't just come to a halt. Logan cursed under his breath and slowed the rig to a crawl. "Convoy's real," he muttered. Mark Doyle, still jotting notes with his calm detachment, lifted his gaze. "They've blocked the whole corridor. This isn't a protest. It's a declaration." Logan pulled off to the shoulder and killed the engine. Trucks stretched in both directions, a frozen pipeline of American commerce grinding to a standstill. No one was moving. Within minutes, a few organizers walked up to Logan's rig, clipboard in hand, flanked by drivers with folded arms and sunburned faces. "You hauling for SureTrack?" one asked. "Not your concern," Logan replied. "You're either with us or in the way. Corporate won't listen to anything but traffic stoppage. We've got national press rolling in. You push through, and you're siding with the people who keep ignoring faulty brakes and missing overtime." Logan exhaled hard through his nose. "I've got a delivery window. Everyone here's got something on the line," the man replied. "That's the point." Logan said nothing. He didn't owe them his story, and they wouldn't care if they heard it. Then, without warning, a deafening metal screech split the air. A container, untethered from a double stack parked too close to the shoulder, broke loose and began rolling down the slight incline. It barreled toward a group of protesters standing near a fire barrel, picking up speed. "Move!" Logan shouted, bolting out of the cab. Without hesitating, he yanked the wheel chocks from his own rig and sprinted across the asphalt, flinging them under the container's path. The heavy crate hit the chocks, rocked violently, and toppled onto its side with a thunderous crash, missing the crowd by feet. A woman sobbed. Someone swore. Dozens looked on, stunned. Mark was already filming the wreckage, his face pale but steady. "That container wasn't secured," he said flatly. "That could have killed 10 people. Logan didn't reply. His hands trembled slightly as he walked back to the cab. Not from fear, but from rage. Not at the protesters. Not even at the chaos. But at the knowledge that none of this surprised him. Back inside the truck, his phone buzzed. He answered. "Mr. Hayes, this is Dr. Nilsson from Chicago Children's. We've had an unexpected surgical opening for your grandson. 2 days from now. We understand the financial strain, but delaying may increase risk. We need a decision." Logan's voice cracked. "Do the surgery. I'll send the updated estimate and paperwork." The line went dead. Logan stared ahead, face unreadable, hands clenched on the wheel. More overtime, more routes, no room for protest. That night, they parked at a remote rest stop off a service road, surrounded by darkness and tall pine. Mark set up his folding tablet on the dash and slipped a headset over his ears. Logan leaned back in the bunk, eyes half closed, trying to let the drone of diesel engines lull him into numbness. But Mark's voice broke the silence. Sharp, low, tense. "I'm not pulling out now. They sent me out here to investigate logistics failures. Well, I found them. In spades." Pause. "No, you listen. If I walk away now, they'll sweep it all. The audit reports are worthless without field data." Another pause. His voice dropped. "I know who's pulling the strings on those contract rewrites. And if that means stepping on boardroom toes, so be it." Logan sat up slightly, shifting his weight without making a sound. Mark's words were muffled now, but the tone had changed. He wasn't just reporting. He was arguing with someone powerful and nervous, Mark finally took off the headset, rubbed his temples, and glanced toward the sleeper. "Long call," he said. Logan grunted. "You always argue with invisible bosses?" Mark didn't answer. Outside, the road was quiet, but inside the cab, the silence now felt heavier. Logan's instincts, honed on foreign soil and factory floors alike, told him this wasn't just a ride-along. Something bigger was in motion, and he felt it creeping closer. The day began with the smell of scorched metal. Logan had barely made it 10 miles past the Nebraska border when the rig shuddered violently, coughing black smoke like a wounded animal. Then came the pop, sharp, explosive, and a streak of orange flame under the hood. He veered off the road, tires skidding through gravel, and killed the ignition just before the fire could spread to the fuel lines. "Out!" he barked, already grabbing the extinguisher from behind his seat. Mark stumbled out of the passenger side, eyes wide as Logan threw the cab door open and sprayed foam in great, hissing arcs. Smoke swirled around them, choking and hot, until finally the flames surrendered with a dying spit. Silence fell. Logan stood in the heat-hazed air, jaw clenched, chest heaving. "This wasn't wear and tear," he muttered. "That was sabotage or junk parts." The rig wasn't going anywhere. With no cell reception and daylight burning, they walked half a mile to the only structure in sight, a rusted roadside garage nestled behind rows of broken-down cars and sun-bleached signs offering cold pop and radiator flush $29.95. An old man with grease-blackened hands and a lopsided gait emerged from the shadows of the garage. "Truck trouble?" he asked, wiping his hands on a rag that looked like it hadn't been cleaned since Reagan was president. "Engine fire," Logan said. "Looks like another one. You SureTrack?" Logan nodded slowly. The old man spat to the side. "Figures. You'll keep rolling in with burnt belts and mismatched rotors. You know half your fleet's got counterfeit filters? Replacements that melt under high torque. Real parts get swapped out somewhere between the depot and the dispatch line." Mark tensed. "That's a bold claim." The man shrugged. "Don't need to make claims. I used to work for him. I recognize the serial codes. These aren't just cheap parts, they're tagged for internal routing. This goes way up the chain." Logan turned to Mark, the air between them thickening. "You taking notes on this too, Doyle?" he growled. Mark didn't answer. Instead, he took a slow breath and looked around to make sure no one else was within earshot. "I'm not Mark Doyle." Logan froze. "My name is Mason Keene. I was appointed CEO of SureTrack 4 months ago, after the last one resigned under pressure. Officially, I'm still in New York, tied up in negotiations. But I knew I wouldn't learn the truth from behind a desk. So I put on the observer badge and embedded myself. I needed to see what they've buried." Logan's fist slammed into the rig's side panel. "All these years," he growled, "I watched friends lose jobs, saw men work through hernias and fractured ribs just to keep their benefits. We kept these trucks rolling while your board shuffled stocks and swapped brake pads for garbage. And now you decide to go undercover? What the hell do you expect me to say?" Mason didn't flinch. "I don't expect forgiveness. I expect help. Because if we don't expose this from the ground, they'll bury it before it ever reaches the surface." Logan stared at him, jaw tight. The garage lights buzzed overhead, casting flickering shadows that danced like ghosts around the rusted tools. "You want help," Logan said finally. "Then no more games. No more lies. From now on, you ride like one of us. You earn it. Because the people you're trying to save, we're the ones who've been bleeding while your board signs checks with our pain." Mason nodded. "Deal." They shook hands, grudgingly, like two wolves circling the same fire. As the old mechanic patched the rig with whatever honest parts he had left, Logan checked his CB radio. Static. Then, faint but clear, a voice crackled through. "Hayes rig spotted near Route 18. Confirmed sighting. Keene may be on board." Logan's blood ran cold. "They're tracking us," he whispered. "Someone in your office doesn't want this coming out." Mason's face darkened. "That would be Royce Stratham, regional director. He's the one who fought hardest to keep me in the dark. If he knows I'm here, He's not just going to let us drive off. They looked out at the empty highway. Somewhere out there, a man with too much power and too much to lose was closing in. The engine still smoked, the sun dipped low, and for the first time, the road ahead felt like war. And Logan had been in war before, but this time he wasn't sure which side he was fighting on. The sun had barely risen when the battered rig rolled onto Interstate 80. Its scorched paint and wheezing engine a warning and a statement all at once. Logan sat behind the wheel, jaw clenched, hands steady despite the sleepless night. Mason, no longer hiding behind the name Mark Doyle, sat beside him, phone in hand, finalizing the last critical details of the plan. "Are you sure this is the only way?" Logan asked, eyes locked on the endless ribbon of asphalt ahead. "No, but it's the loudest," Mason replied, tapping his screen. "If we're going to expose everything, we need an audience they can't ignore. I've wired the cameras. The stream goes live the second we hit the floor." The floor wasn't metaphorical. That morning, SureTrack's annual investor summit was being held at a gleaming corporate expo center in downtown Chicago, a showcase of polished trucks, corporate banners, and staged success stories. What the shareholders didn't expect was for a blackened, half-dead rig to crash their curated illusion. Literally. They timed it perfectly. The keynote had just begun when the freight doors at the back of the center groaned open, silencing the room. All eyes turned as Logan drove the ruined truck slowly inside, the stench of burned rubber and diesel filling the air. Gasps rippled through the crowd. Someone dropped a champagne flute. Cameras flashed. Security hesitated. Then Mason stepped out. No clipboard, no badge, no apologies, just a microphone and the truth. "I am Mason Keene," he announced, voice amplified across the hall. "I'm the CEO of this company, and I've been lied to, just like every driver, mechanic, and shareholder in this room." He gestured to the truck. "This rig represents what your profits have built. Vehicles stitched together with counterfeit parts, lives pushed to the brink to protect quarterly gains. And it stops today." He nodded to Logan, who opened the side panel of the truck, revealing crates, each one carefully labeled, documented, photographed. Mason's live stream cut to close-ups of parts with serial numbers that traced back to dummy vendors and offshore accounts. Images of pay stubs with missing hours. Testimonies from workers. Pages of internal memos showing executives deliberately ignoring safety reports. He had spent the last few hours gathering material to present at the meeting, and he encountered all sorts of problems. Within minutes, the issue caught the attention of drivers and the general public over the internet, who became aware of the situation with hashtags like freight fraud and drive for dignity. In depots across the country, truckers tuned in from break rooms and cab-mounted phones. Some wept, others clenched their fists. By the time Mason revealed the falsified safety reports and under-the-table payouts, convoys were already forming. Trucks began parking shoulder to shoulder across major routes. Horns blasted in protest, creating a sound wall that echoed from coast to coast. Back in the expo center, chaos bloomed. Security moved toward Mason, but he held his ground. "You want to arrest someone?" he said. "Start with the men who made it policy to gamble with lives." The board, seated at the front, was white-knuckled and pale. Cameras caught them whispering, shifting, a few even slipping toward exits. Mason wasn't done. "I know this stunt may cost me everything, so I'm pledging my own compensation package, every cent of it, to overhaul the fleet, fund third-party safety audits, and cover the medical expenses of any employee injured under SureTrack's negligence." He turned toward Logan. "And that includes Logan Hayes' grandson, whose heart surgery was almost delayed again because he had to keep driving overtime through this mess." Gasps again. This time, some from within the board. Logan stood stiffly, hat in hand. For a long second, he just looked at Mason, the man he once saw as part of the machine. Then he gave a nod, not to Mason but to the crowd. "I fought in a war once," he said. "Didn't think I'd have to fight another one just to make sure my grandson got to see another birthday. But if this man, this CEO, is serious about fixing what's broken, then I'll drive the first mile toward that future." By the time local police arrived, they were met not with a simple corporate dispute, but with a national movement. Faced with public outcry and plummeting stocks, the SureTrack board caved. Several members resigned before the week was out. Royce Stratham was placed under federal investigation for fraud and endangerment. Reforms began, contracts were rewritten, and Mason, though battered politically, was hailed as the man who threw himself into the fire to pull a corrupted empire back from the brink. Days later, Logan stood outside a hospital in St. Louis, watching his daughter hold her son's hand as the boy was wheeled into surgery. On time, this time, covered in full. He didn't smile. Not exactly, but something in his shoulders loosened. Later, Mason pulled up in a new company rig. Not a showroom truck. A working one. "I'm not going back to the tower," Mason said. "Too much to rebuild. Thought maybe I'd learn how to shift gears for real this time." Logan climbed into the cab, settling into the seat beside him. "Long haul ahead," he said. Mason nodded. "Yeah, but at least now we're finally going the right direction." And with a low rumble, the truck pulled back onto the highway. Two men from opposite worlds, driving not just toward the next stop, but toward something better, 1 mile at a time. This journey proves true power rides with those who refuse to stay silent. In Logan's boots, would you burn rubber against injustice, or keep rolling for a paycheck? Drop your answer below, smash that like, and subscribe to embrace the journey for more road-forged stories. See you in the next video.